David.
Okay,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can. Thanks, Mark. So my name
I
is
just want to make sure you knew I was here.
We do. My name is David Hart. I am co-president this year of Malden Rotary, and on the call also with us is Mark Lawhorn, who is the other co-president among some of our members. Tonight we have Chief Bill Sullivan from the Malden Fire Department, and he's going to speak a little bit about how the city and the fire department has managed COVID, and just kind of the state of affairs of where the fire department is in the city and the city in general. So we're going to turn it over to you, Chief Sullivan. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Certainly appreciate the work that Rotary does. Relative to the fire department, first and foremost in everybody's mind, I think regardless of the industry or the area of society that you're in today is COVID and the pandemic. As I was saying earlier to Charlie, I believe, relative to the fire department's response to this pandemic, the fact that we respond to EMS calls regularly, dealing with communicable diseases is nothing new. And taking those precautions in the field is nothing new. Every time we go out the door, the members are prepared and equipped, to deal with people who are ill, who are injured, while at the same time protecting themselves from anything that could be passed. The challenge, I think, in the fire department was similar to any workplace, and that was the changes that had to occur within the fire station, right, relative to social distancing. We had to purchase a couple of extra, dining tables. We have plexiglass shields for visitors that come into the fire prevention office, wearing masks in and around the station. The way that we take our meals and the number of people that may be in the kitchen at any one time. So that was an adjustment. Early on, we certainly had our challenges, relative to, people, concerned with the fact that they may have been exposed. They were going for, for testing. We had, multiple members who were quarantined as a result of that. I will say at the outset, I give a lot of credit and a lot of thanks to Cambridge Health Alliance. Very early on in this pandemic, I was contacted by Cambridge Health Alliance and offered what I'll call, I guess, an oversight of any issues that we had in the fire department or concerns regarding our members, where we could refer them directly to the Cambridge Health Alliance people. We had a 24-hour-a-day number to call. So they were a tremendous asset through this, and have been and continue to be, to the fire department, just overseeing any concerns we had with our members. And the numbers bear out. I think as a department, as a workplace, we've remained, I'll say, very healthy through the hard work of the members, the oversight of the Cambridge Health Alliance people. We've been very fortunate in that respect. So, as far as COVID-19 goes, comparatively speaking, you see more and more fire departments in the news, particularly as of late, down in Attleboro, and now there's concerns out in Worcester. But again, in Malden, knock on wood, I don't want to jinx myself, so far so good.
Chief, and I want to, what I'll do is really kind of open it up, some of the questions that we had asked earlier, if people want to chime in and ask those questions. But what, and again, you're obviously not there. What do you think may have gone wrong in Attleboro? Was it just, I'll call it user error, they're not social distancing the right way? Or, I mean, we know that COVID, once it starts, it will jump around a lot. And what do you think? I mean, just a speculation.
Yeah, you know what? If at all possible, I'd rather not speculate.
That's fine. No, that's
I think that would be unfair to anybody down there. The fact is that in time, probably a relatively short time, information will be passed through the fire service in Massachusetts. We don't keep secrets amongst each other. So I haven't spoken to anybody in Attleboro. No news or information has been passed on to me. you know, this, as you well know, this is a concern, or this is a virus that spreads very easily and very rapidly. You know, when you talk about the fact that somebody that's asymptomatic, you know, can be spreading the virus, you know, it's very, very easy to sneak up on people. So, you know, I'm not at all, you know, prepared, nor would I even suggest the possibility that, you know, that there was a lapse anywhere in the Attleboro Fire Department or the Worcester Fire Department or you know, anywhere.
Right.
That matter. You know, it's like I said, our experience here, you know, the concerns that we have, the most part that we've addressed began outside the fire station. You know, when we go out the door to an incident, we're equipped, we're prepared, you know, we know how to protect our people and we know how to deal with the people that we interact with. So, yeah, you know, I obviously they're in my thoughts and prayers, and I hope everything works out for them. But, you know, my guess is it's, you know, it's probably something as innocent as that.
So,
Chief, if I can
please.
interject and ask a question real quick, where do you guys stand with PPE? Obviously working over here in Somerville, I know what communities are up against. How are you guys doing with face masks, with other things? Is there a need for donations to help you guys, or where would Malden Fire like to see areas like us or community members like us reach out and help out and support?
No, I think at present, you know, when it first started off, of course, there was the rush, you know, to get PPE into the fire stations and onto fire apparatus and into the hands of firefighters. I think at this point, you know, we've stocked up. We're doing well in that respect. It's comforting to know there are organizations like yours that are out there that we can turn to and, you know, in the time of need. But thank you. But I'd have to say at present, you know, with respect to PPE, we're doing okay.
Okay, good. Excellent. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Have you guys been hit hard, or have you had members hit? And obviously we don't go into, you know, specifics, but are you guys doing okay with protecting and with the families being okay of every firefighter that's out there dealing with what they have to deal with in the public?
No, knock on wood. In fact, at a recent department heads meeting, Board of Health Director Chris Webb, the Malden Board of Health, was kind enough to actually extend praise to both the fire department and the police department for the exceptionally low numbers of people that we've even had to quarantine. You know, as I said earlier, you know, when this began, you know, it did catch, you know, a great part of the population by surprise. So like every other industry, like many other workplaces, we ran into situations where there were periods of time in the very early going where we had, you know, a good percentage of people quarantined, you know, out of concern and overabundance of caution. But we worked through that. And now, as I said, yeah, again, my hat's off to Cambridge Health Alliance. We've worked through that, and we're doing very well.
Good to hear.
So one of the concerns that I think we all know about is, or we all are thinking about, is the financial aspect of this. How do you foresee this hitting the Malden Fire Department, be currently, or, you know, in next budget cycle, or maybe even 2 budget cycles out? Where do you see this going?
Yeah, again, I'm following the news like everybody else. I meet bi-weekly with the mayor, and in the alternating weeks, we meet as department heads with the mayor. I know in this budget, and again, you know, I've been the chief for 6 months, so I'm sort of wading into new waters for myself. You know, I don't have, nor am I aware of any, you know, hard and firm projections on the municipal budget going forward into the next year. I know there are concerns, certainly. You know, revenues are down. You know, I follow the news like everybody else, but we're sort of dealing with the here and now, and, you know, today and this week at this point.
So, Chief, you bring up a good point, that you are that you've been the chief for 6 months. Can you give us just a little bit of your history, when you started, and if you don't mind, just you know, kind of a brief history?
Yeah, no, sure, I'd be happy to. So I came on the fire department in March of 1987. I followed my father, who spent 32 years in the fire department in Malden. Careers overlapped for 7 years.
Oh.
And he followed his father, my grandfather, onto the fire department. My grandfather was a Malden firefighter for 40 years. I did a little bit of research on Rotary, and in 1919, when Mr. Charles Moss was becoming your first president, my grandfather was returning from the battlefields of France to pick up his career in the fire department. He was a firefighter for about 10 or 11 months when he went overseas. He returned in 1919 and then, retired in 1957. So that's that. So that's my family history. As far as myself, I was fortunate enough to come on at a young age. I was 21 years old. I was promoted to lieutenant in 1994, captain in 1997, deputy chief in 2006, assistant chief in 2016, and chief of department, again, just 6 months ago. I spent 13 years as an instructor at the Massachusetts Firefighting Academy, teaching tactics and strategy to lieutenants, captains, and chief officers around the state. I have a bachelor's degree in fire science from Anna Maria College in Paxton, Mass. I'm a 1983 graduate of Malden High School, proud Golden Tornado. I own a home in Malden, actually a home built by my grandfather. So, I have no intention of leaving. Wouldn't feel right about leaving a house behind my grandfather built. But Malden all my life. I have 3 children. They're not kids anymore. My son is a biology teacher in Brooklyn, New York. I have a daughter that works for Amazon in Manhattan, and her twin just got her doctorate of physical therapy. She's working for a private interest out in Newton.
Oh, great. So, and I want to open this up to everybody else too, but I did have one other quick question. I noticed, I read just recently, I think it might have been on the Malden Patch or the Malden Observer or something, that the fire department was just recently awarded 2 grants.
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I had that on my list of items to bring up. So yes, I wrote a grant probably just about a year ago. Our portable radios, the radios that each individual firefighter carries with them, are approaching 10 to 12 years old. And we received word about a year ago from Motorola, the manufacturer, that they would no longer be supported. Should they be damaged, it would be very, very difficult to get parts, and certainly to replace them. To replace the radios is an expensive undertaking. So I wrote a grant, a FEMA grant, Assistance to Firefighters grant program that's managed by FEMA, requesting the replacement of our portable radios. And we were fortunate enough to be awarded that grant to the tune of $229,000. So
Good.
Congratulations.
Process now of placing that order. In addition to that, Captain Eric Diavolo, who at the time was recently promoted captain, assigned to the fire prevention office, and is one of our lead fire investigation unit investigators. That is a team that works very closely with Malden Police Department detectives, investigating fires that occur in the city. He also wrote a grant to purchase new and much needed equipment for the fire investigation unit. And through the same program, the same Assistance to Firefighters program. And we were fortunate enough through Captain Diavolo's efforts to be awarded approximately $17,000
Oh, fantastic.
Very good.
to purchase equipment for that team. At the same time, while we're on the subject of equipment, we're about to, in the next month to 6 weeks, take delivery of a new engine and a new ladder truck, which was the process of purchasing those was started by my predecessor, retired Chief Kevin Finn, working again with the mayor, the city controller. As you can imagine, that's a pretty good size undertaking. So that'll the arrival of those 2 pieces of apparatus, I think, is going to reduce the average age of our fleet by 7 or 8 years. So they're coming at a pretty good time. We're very much looking forward to the arrival of those two pieces of equipment.
What's the sticker price on a fire truck?
Those two pieces of apparatus they're going for about 1.4 million.
Chief, how many firehouses do you have in the city of Malden, and how many firefighters currently are on the force?
Yeah, currently there are 108 uniformed members of the department
Okay.
operating from 3 fire stations. That's engine 1 coming back, if you could hear that. Engine 3 and ladder 3 are located at Pearl and Pleasant next to the MBTA station.
Yep.
Engine 1, Engine 2, and ladder 1 operate from the central fire station across from Malden High School. And Engine 4 is located in a fire station that we share with the Revere Fire Department down in the Roseland property, just on the other side of Route 1.
Right.
So that 4 engines, 2 ladder trucks, and a command vehicle.
Okay.
Would you like that, was it engine 4 a little closer to the east side?
Well, you know, there's a lot of things I think.
If you had a wish list, Chief.
Yeah, no, of course. That's certainly a conversation that's going to come up. There's no question about that. That's going to require an intensive study, because it's not just about one area of the city. You know, I know all of you know Malden well enough to know that it's not the community it was 25 or 30 years ago. You know, when you consider population density, number one, the last I saw, I think in the globe, if I'm not mistaken, Malden was in the top 5 most densely populated cities in the state.
Wow.
You know, on top of that, the construction that's going on in Malden, you know, and the type of building construction, the traffic volume that's increasing. So, you know, you know, and again, the fact that, you know, we operate out of a station that's 100 years old, it certainly doesn't owe the city a dime, you know. So that's a major conversation. That's a major undertaking, but it's certainly a conversation that I'm sure is going to come up. No
For the new center house, or something?
Well, just, you know, as far as facilities, you know, going forward, it's something that we have to look at. You know, where are we going to be 25, 50, 75 years from today? You know, we start laying the groundwork for that now. So, you know, back in, I don't want to go back too far, but just as the department was becoming motorized, you know, there were 6 fire stations in the city. All right, and all of them at one time, you know, had horses running from them. Well, now, you know, with the vehicles and the traffic patterns, and, you know, I'm not suggesting for a second that 5 or 6 stations is the number, but it's something that, you know, would require today a GIS study, perhaps, you know, to take a look and make sure if we're gonna do something like build a new firehouse, that we place it in the best location possible. You know, because as I can tell by the building I'm sitting in, you know, we're gonna have that firehouse for a very long time. You know.
How many ambulances do the city run? Or I guess it would be EMS ambulances, or how does that work?
Yeah, the city of Malden is covered by a private ambulance contractor, the Cataldo Ambulance Service.
Right.
So the city has an arrangement with Cataldo, and they're in my experience, you know, a very good partner in the EMS field. In Malden, if you dial 911 with a medical emergency, the response of 3 agencies is automatic: the fire, the police, and Cataldo Ambulance.
Okay.
You'll forgive him. He's from Melrose, so he doesn't know from private ambulances.
Well, I'll tell you, the Melrose Fire Department ambulance has been in Malden a couple of times. They actually serve as a backup to Cataldo at times.
Do they?
Yeah. So.
The whole city? They cover the whole, I mean, if need be?
I don't know, if Cataldo is stretched thin,
Yeah.
we run into a situation where we need an ambulance, or I should say Cataldo is stretched too thin, then yeah, the Melrose ambulance is something they have relied on in the past.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So
mutual aid's nothing new to the fire service, as you know.
Right.
Once a fire breaks out in any community, the boundaries disappear as far as the fire department's concerned.
Thank God.
Chief, has COVID increased the mutual aid requests, or is it just, is it just really stayed the same across the board?
No, as far as mutual aid, I believe that stayed the same.
Okay,
We did come up, the Metro Fire Chiefs is an organization. There are 36 fire departments in Metro Boston, including Massport, that have entered into this mutual aid agreement for many, many years. Many years. It's well established. And as the chiefs of those departments, including myself, we meet once a month. So there have been policies established that sort of cover us as we respond to different communities. If we're sending apparatus to cover a fire station in Medford, then there are new policies that take care of that, just so, we're not bringing anything to the station that could cause a problem for them, or we're not going in and exposing ourselves to something that could cause a problem for us.
okay. What is the breakdown now? I know that the numbers have changed because I've read this on a number of occasions, the breakdowns versus medical emergencies and fires. What do your calls look like? What does the average day look like, I guess?
So on average, the Malden Fire Department citywide responds to approximately 23 to 25 emergency incidents in a 24-hour period. And I would say I could do the math. I would say relative to breakdown, maybe 30 to 40% of those may be EMS related, motor vehicle accidents. Fire alarm systems obviously are a valuable life-saving tool. But many of them are very sensitive. So we respond to a lot of alarm activations that are maybe the result of cooking or cooking that didn't go too well, I guess. But that's not a complaint by any stretch. So the number of multiple alarm fires, if you wanted to compare that to 20, 25, 30 days ago, certainly there are less multiple alarm fires, and that's a good thing. But I wouldn't say that there are less fire incidents. To date, if we go by the National Fire Incident Reporting System, and that is a system that Malden uses, to date, there have been 18 code 111s, which is the code for a building fire in Malden. Over the last 3 years, I believe we've averaged 15 incidents that could be classified as a building fire. So if you go back 30, 40, 50 years ago, in the absence of the sophisticated alarm systems we have today, you might be looking at an additional 15 multiple alarm fires. The flip side of that, this is something that firefighters are receiving extensive training on today. I don't know if you're familiar with an agency with the initials NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology.
No.
UL, Underwriters Laboratory.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with them. NIST and UL got together with the FDNY, the Fire Department of New York. They did extensive studies on the contents of the residential environment today. And the fact of the matter is that in our homes today, be it furniture, carpeting, wall coverings, everything is petroleum based, everything is plastic. So what that equates to, as far as the fire service is concerned, is a fire that is more rapidly advancing than it was 25 or 30 years ago. I went through the training, and in the last couple of years I was at the academy, I was actually an instructor in this course. They did an eye-opening video during the training and the studies that they did in New York City, where they placed side by side two living rooms, two entirely furnished living rooms. One furnished with older model furnishings, made of natural fibers. Again, dating back, legacy furnishings, what they called it, dating back, 25, 30 years ago. The room furnished exactly the same way, exact same pieces of furniture, number, design, what have you, but modern furnishings, foam rubber cushions, again, more plastics. They simply dropped a cigarette into a trash barrel or a waste paper basket that was beside a couch, and they let happen what was going to happen. 25 or 30 years ago, as the fire progressed, the room didn't reach full room involvement until 20 or 25 minutes into the fire. So if you had, fortunate enough, you had a smoke detector, well, you were gonna learn of the fire's presence very quickly. Today, based on modern furnishings, that same exact scenario, that room is reaching full room involvement in a little bit under 5 minutes. The problem for us is that with the advanced alarm systems, that's about the time in the timeline that we're arriving. So we're pulling into an incident now just as probably at its most dangerous point. So the way we ventilate a building, the way we attack a fire inside, particularly a residential structure, is changing. But again, thankfully, a department like the Fire Department of New York, with the resources that they have, we're able to get involved with these studies that lasted, I believe, 3 to 5 years with UL and NIST, and the information that was produced is incredibly valuable to firefighters, and of course, and to residents and homeowners from a fire prevention standpoint.
So one other quick question, as a homeowner, what is the most dangerous appliance a homeowner can have in their house?
Well, I don't know if I can name the most dangerous appliance. I think perhaps the thing to keep in mind is just the attention you pay to whatever appliance it is you're using. This is a great week for me to be with you, gentlemen. This is Fire Prevention Week, National Fire Prevention Week. And this year's theme is serving up fire safety in the kitchen. Now, kitchen fires are the leading cause of fires in the home. So unfortunately, this year with COVID, we weren't able to continue, at least for this year, a great event that was brought about, established by, again, Chief Finn, the Public Safety Day. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but that was a tremendously successful event. And given the restrictions of COVID, we weren't able to carry that out this year, regretfully. Hopefully, we'll be able to get back to it next year, and if possible, we will. But we are trying to get out through social media, the message that, when you're in the kitchen cooking, stay there. We've all heard the term, watch what you eat, right? Now we're asking you to watch what you eat while it's cooking. Don't leave it, and be prepared, know what to do. That, if God forbid that there were a fire on your stovetop, have a cover that will go over that pot handy with an oven mitt. You know what I mean? So that you can protect yourself, and slide the cover over the pan. Last thing you want to do is throw water onto a stovetop fire. You're a lot better off smothering the fire with the cover, and then just turning the stove off and letting it cool up. Just leave it there and let it cool up. A fire in the oven, leave the door closed. The oven is designed to contain that heat. Leave the door closed, shut the oven off, and let it cool. If there's any apprehension, any concern at all, call the fire department. We urge you to, certainly. But those first few seconds, if people can remain calm and they're prepared and they know what to do, they can avert a lot of issues. There's no question about it. Microwave ovens, it's a great tool. Fire starts in a microwave oven. Leave the door closed. Unplug the microwave oven. Turn the pot holders in, the pot handles in on the stovetop. So through social media, we're trying to get this information out, particularly this week. Last year, the theme was, the importance of practicing home fire drills. People may say, I live in my home. I know how to get out of my house. Well, that may be true, but your house will become an entirely different place in zero visibility. When you're crawling along the floor. So, everybody in your home should know 2 ways out. They should know where they're going to meet when they get outside, so that attendance can be taken, and make sure everybody's there. Make sure that nobody goes back in, for anything. Right? And today, particularly with COVID, the fact that we're all, so many of our families are working from home. We're probably home today more than we have been in many, many years. So a few minutes spent, particularly with young kids, they know what to do. They were practicing fire drills in school 4 times a year. So it's gonna be nothing new to them, but homeschooling, fire drills are something I think should continue even at the home. I know they should.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions for the
That's
chief?
great. That's great advice, Chief, about the kitchen. I grew up in the house where we had a sign that said we knew when dinner was ready when the smoke detectors went off. My mother burnt I don't know how many kitchens.
Oh,
It was more than a joke. It was dead serious. But
no, I know
you know,
it. Yeah,
but
no,
you know, you're right. It can go fast and it can shock the hell out of you.
yeah, no, there's been a couple of stories recently in the state of Massachusetts, you know, of kitchen fires where unfortunately the homeowner or the person doing the cooking attempted to extinguish the fire by throwing water onto it. And certainly in the case of a grease fire, you know, the water is gonna go underneath the grease, it's gonna splash it, you know, all over the place, and then very difficult for a homeowner to bring that back under control. Not to mention the burns that have been suffered by people using that method of attempting to extinguish a fire in the kitchen. So it's so important, you know, regardless of whether or not you need the cover to the pot or pan while you're cooking, it should be handy. Have it on the counter right next to the stove with an oven mitt, as I said. So you can slide the cover right over the pot, shut the heat off, just wait for it to cool off. You don't have to rush it over to the sink, it'll cool.
There's a former
Chief.
associate of yours that he preaches and yells if you leave a room with a candle on.
I'm one
That's
of them.
his mantra. No, don't leave any candles unattended.
Yeah, no, my wife is, you know, she loves candles, there's no question about it. And I drive her crazy, you know. There's no reason to have a candle on in a room that's unoccupied.
Right.
And in another point, truthfully, is don't move a candle that's lit. You shouldn't be walking around the house with one that's lit. You know, you want to move the candle, blow it out, move the candle, put it on a firm surface, and relight it.
Good stuff right there. Chief, I got a question for you. So it's kind of a two-part question. One is, what are you guys dealing with tonight? Because obviously I'm here at work tonight dealing with as many lights and lines and fire alarm and Eversource issues that we're dealing with. But aside from that, when you answer that piece, tell us about your history. I don't know if I missed it while I was out, but your family's history has been it's pretty legendary with Malden Fire. And I love to highlight, you know, or see people highlight the history in Malden. And your family's is exceptional when it comes to Malden Fire. So if you could just elaborate a little bit on that, and what's your current generation's family, what are they doing with themselves right now, your kids?
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. So like I said a little earlier, I am a third generation firefighter. My father, my grandfather, and myself have a combined 105 years in the Malden Fire Department at this point.
Wow.
You know, obviously the job is entirely different. My grandfather was a first generation Irish American. His parents came from County Kerry. He worked at the well, I guess it was called the Boston Rubber Factory. Then he grew up on Oakland Street, 42 Oakland Street, right next to the Italian Club. My own kids, you know, it's more fun for me to talk about them. I enjoy a lot more talking about them. But my wife and I have been blessed. We have three. My son Brendan is a graduate of Malden Catholic and Tufts University. He has a master's in education. He's teaching high school biology in Brooklyn, New York. My daughter Daria is a graduate of Northeastern University, Arlington Catholic and Northeastern University, and she
Go Cougars.
Yeah, go Cougars, exactly. She just took a job, accepted employment with Amazon. So she's just recently moved to Hoboken, New Jersey after living in Manhattan, but she'll be working in Manhattan. And my daughter Alicia, also, she's a twin to Daria. She also an Arlington Catholic graduate, then went on to Simmons College and graduated from there with a doctorate in physical therapy. And I'm proud to say she also spent 2 years in the New England Patriots cheerleader.
Hey.
So if your daughter who's in Hoboken, New Jersey can go to Cake Boss now and get a from Carlo's Bakery.
Oh, she hasn't mentioned that to me yet. I'll have to,
Yeah, that's on TV, and he, builds all those cakes and so forth. So
excellent.
that your next birthday, you should get a nice Cake Boss cake.
Oh, thanks for the heads up on that.
When is it? We'll be there
Just what I need.
exactly.
with the cake.
Hey, Chief, recently we're seeing a lot. At least I'm seeing a lot of ads via social media for these fire blankets that they're recommending that households buy and so forth. What is the effectiveness of those?
Is there a particular application that they're, to be
Well,
honest, I haven't seen the advertisements.
One of the things that they're saying is that there should be one in each bedroom. There should also be one in the kitchen, and that you can smother the fire with a blanket type of situation, or help you get out of the house and wrap yourself in it.
Yeah, I'll say this about that. I think the most important, and I'm not, believe me, not in any, I don't know enough about them, so I'm not, certainly not speaking against them, but for any resident, I would strongly suggest this. Number one, we talked about the importance of practicing home fire drills and making sure that everybody knows at least 2 ways out of a home. Is having a home fire extinguisher a good idea? Yeah, I believe it is. But it also requires a little bit of training, which is difficult to do because most of them are one-use pieces of equipment. But the fact of the matter is that, even a home fire extinguisher should be used only to extinguish, a relatively small fire that can be easily extinguished, and or, to provide you a path of egress, in the event that the fire is between you and the exit. I don't subscribe to the thought that if you buy 4 fire extinguishers for your home, that you, God forbid a fire starts in your house and the first one doesn't work, you run around and use the other 3 before you dial 911.
Yeah.
So if you choose to have a fire extinguisher home, that's a great idea, but they're designed, for a small fire. And understand, when a lot of people find out when they do need to use them, again, read the directions carefully well before, you need to use it. But, you point a home handheld fire extinguisher at the base of the fire, depress the trigger, sweep the agent back and forth across the base of the fire until the extinguisher is empty. And then you leave the home and call 911 and get the fire department there. Again, I know I have heard examples of where when you first discharge a fire extinguisher, there is a little bit of, kickback, there's a little bit of pressure behind it, there's that surge of extinguishing agent that comes out, and for a brief moment it can appear as if the fire is flaring up. So unfortunately what happens sometimes is that people get nervous, they let the trigger go, and they really haven't utilized the fire extinguisher to its fullest extent. So again, home fire extinguisher for a small fire, to ensure your way out. But the most important thing when the fire alarm sounds, the smoke detector goes off, is to get out of the house, get your family out of the house. If you awaken in the middle of the night to any type of smoke condition in your home and with the alarms ringing, leave the home. Get everybody out of the house. It's our job to come and find out why there's smoke in your house. But most people are not trained and certainly not equipped at that point in time to go searching the origin of the smoke. Particularly in Malden, where the response times are exceptional. We're 2.5, 3.5, 4 minutes away tops. So the more important thing is to ensure that your family is outside and safe.
Chief, do the fire departments still register? I don't know if this is the right wording, but still register children that are in the house? Because I remember that there used to be these stickers like tot finders or
Hot finder, yeah.
that you put on the child's bedroom's window.
Yeah.
Is that still a practice that happens, Chief?
No, the tot finder program, I'm familiar with it. It's not utilized or sponsored, at least by the Malden Fire Department, I can tell you that. And one of the concerns, unfortunately, in the world we live in today was that, a tot finder sticker didn't just tell firefighters that there were kids in that particular house. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
you
I
know?
see what you're
Gotcha.
saying, right.
So, again, the importance of getting everybody out of the house, if, and staying out once you're out. If there is someone, that, that hasn't gotten out of the house, maybe they went out another way and they're in the back of the house, but as soon as we arrive, our first priority is life safety. One of the first things that's gonna happen is that the building is gonna be searched. And we have a plan, we've been trained, regardless of the floor plan of the building, regardless of the type of construction, that the building will get searched and searched very quickly. And we're equipped to do that. There's just been too many examples of tragedy across the country where parents, siblings, fearing that a member of the family was still inside, went back into the home and didn't make it out. So again, I'm just repeating myself, but it's just so important to just make sure the family's out of the house and stays out of the house.
Chief, to add a little brevity, maybe we'll see, but it's fire prevention weekend. We all know who I used to work for, and he loved a fire, and he loved to have a backyard fire. And a lot of times we'd be sitting out by a fire in the backyard up on Pagum, or we'd be up on I can't even think of the name of the last house residence we were at. But I remember one night we're sitting around the fire pit going, blazing pretty good, and one of the guys says, I'm a little chilly. So I grabbed a moving blanket. I don't know if you're familiar with the moving blankets, but that's not a very good thing to have around fire. And as part of Fire Prevention Week, I think it would be smart to mention, don't ever use those things as a warming blanket around a fire, because a little spark, a little pop from a log, and that sends that fire blanket. You don't even notice it, but it's not on fire. It eats away very quickly, and it spreads like almost like a flesh-eating bacteria that just moves across. And so this happened to be the AFL-CIO president that I put the blanket around, and as I nearly burned him to death with it,
Ooh.
I was made to go to out to Stowe and went through a little course on fire safety. So you learn a lot about these things through accidents, number one, but having gone out there, I learned a lot about what you guys go through and the tower that you go through when you're out there in Stowe, and the course of putting out, spraying. You mentioned about using a fire extinguisher to put out the fire around something. When you sit there and you go through a course that the fire department or the state fire marshal puts on, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty spectacular, and it's pretty scary. But you do learn a lot about how to respond.
Yeah, there's no question. I'm going to use the opportunity you just provided with the story that you related to bring up something that is probably going to be a little bit unpopular, but it's something that needs to be said. When you reference a campfire or an outside fire, the word needs to get out there that in Malden, and in fact, 22 other cities and towns specifically named in the Massachusetts regulation, these fire pits, chimeneas, outdoor fireplaces are illegal. You can't have them. And unfortunately, particularly recently, as we're coming into the fall, we've responded to a significant number of those. We've become a little bit unpopular with some of the people, but in a community as densely built up in many areas as we are, it really is a dangerous practice, to utilize, again, these fire pits, the chimeneas, and outdoor fireplaces. Malden is not the place for it. Unfortunately, at present, you can go to a Home Depot, you can go to Lowe's and perhaps purchase one. And I know they're working at the state level, to develop some sort of flyer or pamphlet that would go along with it, letting you know that, thank you for your purchase, but here's where you cannot use it. So again, just a word of caution, before we get to end. At present, there is a fining mechanism in place. We've worked with those residents to whose homes we've responded to from an educational standpoint at this point. Just informing people that in Malden, you cannot utilize, these items, fire pits, chimneys, outdoor fireplaces. But that second, or God forbid, third time we return, the fines, they graduate quickly.
With what you're saying, Chief, let me ask you this, because I know a lot of people think the answer is to say, oh, I put a grill grate on it and I was cooking a hot dog or I was cooking a hamburger. How do you answer that? Because I know a lot of people are quick to try and use that as an excuse.
Yeah, no, you're correct in that. But, we're well versed in the difference between a barbecue and a fire pit. And truthfully speaking, I've been to a couple of incidents regarding fire pits where the fire was of such a magnitude, you couldn't have got a hot dog near it.
Right, right.
You could have cooked it from 8 feet away. So,
Right.
Hey, Chief, is that including like the propane fire pits also, as well as the wood burning are illegal?
yeah, the propane, the natural gas fired, I don't know, fire pits or heating units, I guess. Fire prevention officers encountering that now, particularly again with COVID and the restaurants, desiring to move tables outside. The weather is cooling off, so we're working, very cooperatively with restaurants and businesses in the city that want to utilize these propane fired heaters. So we have a permitting process. We have a policy on storage requirements for propane tanks, the amount of propane and the number of tanks that you can have, both being utilized in these heating units and in storage. And the fire prevention is taking each venue on its own characteristics or its own makeup to determine what's appropriate for that particular place.
So, Chief,
But that
home one
is a work in progress, to tell you the truth. Because again, due to COVID and the businesses desiring to, to get open and serve their customers, we're trying to work closely with them.
can't blame any restaurant for trying and finding a way to try and make it work in all of this, and it's difficult and it presents challenges to you guys. But as a homeowner, when you look at the propane tanks that are the small ones with the glass tablets in them, it's a propane tank under it in a small encased little table. Are those legal?
When you say, you're talking about the 20-pound cylinder?
Yes, just like a grill. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, anything over 40, anything over 2 tanks needs to be permitted. You should have a permit.
Good to know.
And again, a lot of people don't realize that the characteristics of propane, the fact that propane is a gas that's heavier than air. If it's leaking, it doesn't just dissipate into the air. It seeks a low spot and it pools.
Sits down, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why it's important to keep a propane gas grill, away from a residence, so that if something malfunctioned and it was leaking, that it didn't seep into, a cellar, because it will seep the lowest point in the area. So
So don't have them on a covered porch. Don't have them on any kind of porch.
No,
Separate them from the house.
Again, by fire prevention regulation, you cannot have any type of grill on a porch, a deck, a balcony. They have to be on the ground and again, away from the structure. When you
By grill, you also mean those little fire pits should not be up on a porch, should not be on a structure. They should be
Correct.
out in the yard, away
Correct.
from the house.
Yep. And when not in use, shut the gas off at the tank. Don't rely
Absolutely.
on the individual burner knobs on the grill itself. Shut the gas off at the tank.
Yep.
And
Good to
again, you don't ever store a propane tank inside of a structure. All right, they need to be stored outside securely, where they can't be
Yep.
damaged. Or,
Never in a basement, never put it
never
in the shed out in the yard.
inside the structure. Correct.
Is that, Chief, is that like empty or full for the propane tanks? It shouldn't be, or?
Well, again, there's really no way of knowing that a tank is completely empty. As there's no gauge, they're weighed. You know, what a lot of people don't realize that in a propane tank, that's filled with a liquid. It's not filled with a gas. If the amount of propane liquid in a typical barbecue tank were a gas, it would fill, I believe, 250 of those tanks. It expands quite a bit when it converts from a liquid to a gas. So there's quite a bit of propane in them. I mean, you all realize you'll get a summer out of one of them. You know, typical barbecue.
Yep.
So.
Hey, Chief, I'm just gonna say this, you know, I think we thought you might be on from like 7:10 to like 7:25. You're on till 8:10, and I don't know about the rest. You can keep talking all night long because it's great information, and I don't think any one of us want to stop you because it's really, really important, and it's really it shows how important it is to us and how important it is to you that you're willing to sit here for 45 minutes with Rotarians that you don't need to be.
No, anytime. It's great. Like I said, you know, I was born and raised in Malden. It's really been a pleasure, even in the short 6 or 7 months that I've been the chief, to get into the community the way I have in this position, you know. So I've spoken before of a couple of organizations like yours, and it's been a fantastic experience to meet the people in the community on these terms. You know, typically, you know, when we meet people in the community, they're not necessarily having their best day.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
And also,
Well,
you should probably please note that it's 8 o'clock and he's still at the job, on the job.
Yeah. Yep.
Chief Sullivan, one last thing. Being Fire Prevention Week, is there somebody that we can contact as a club to help push that information out for you via social media? And then, of course, next year, we would certainly love to partner with the fire department to see what we could do to help. You know, I realize COVID has made everything vastly different, but we'd certainly love to be able to do something with the department next year. And also, what can we do to help you now? And is there a contact?
Exactly, Dave. I'm glad you followed up with that point, because to me, we could wait a year until Fire Prevention Week and see what the chief wants us to do, but know that we're here as a club that's willing to help out from tonight on, and anything we can do to further your goals and further the safety of this community, we're here for you and would like to, you know, offer our help in any way possible.
No, I'm glad to hear that. I certainly am. You know, one of the goals of mine is to form multiple partnerships across the community. You know, first and foremost, of course, with our community's leaders, the mayor's office, the city council. You know, Mayor Christensen, the members of the council that I've interacted with have been phenomenally supportive. You know, as I said, organizations like yours, these are where partnerships need to be and should be formed, and I look forward to doing just that. So again,
Excellent.
8, 9, 10 o'clock, I'll go all night. You're not bothering me.
Used to it.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, in the neighborhood, we know that he's up early in the morning walking the neighborhood. Many a times I've left on a trip to go to Vieques, to go to Florida, go to wherever I'm going, and as my Uber is waiting outside, this is the guy that walks by me on the sidewalk going, "Have a nice trip."
5 a.m.
Every day.
All right, Chief. We're going to let you go. Anybody else with any other questions for Chief Sullivan?
No, it's been a pleasure, gentlemen. I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to the next one.
Thanks very
Thank
much,
you,
Chief.
Chief.
And
Thanks,
we will
Chief.
hold you to that.
Stay
And have you
safe.
back.
Anytime.
Stay safe.
Be safe. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care, Chief.
All right.
Thank you.